share a bit before we start. Hello, everyone. Okay, it loads well here. Oh, do you see? Do you see the videos?
Yeah, we're live, right?
Yeah. Okay, we are good. Okay. Yep, we are live. I will just reshare the super retreat one. I'll share the super retreat one over to the group, which is actually better.
All right.
As we wait for that. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. It's actually quite excited about this. We've been planning to have this for a while, so thanks for doing this, and
Yeah, of course.
thanks for Sarah for arranging this also. Yeah. So hi, this is Daniel. I'm here with Ashley Suelyn. I have known Ashley for I say it's several years already, and she's, it always boggles me in terms of like how can she do so many things, and that's one of the reasons why we want to get her to share how can she be so productive. And welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Daniel. All
Okay,
right.
so um, so I understand you'll be talking about how to align your personality with productivity. Yeah, so take it away.
All right. Thanks, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Nice meeting you guys. Thank you so much for signing in this morning with us at 11 a.m. So, a little bit about myself. If you can just go to the next slide. My name is Ashley, and I thought I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about why I started the Real Planner. So, when I first started the Real Planner, it was about 4 to 5 years ago, and a lot of people came to me asking the same exact questions that Daniel just asked, like, how did you do so much? And I ended up sitting down with a lot of people, just kind of consulting with them, helping them through their time management, their energy management, and expectation management as well. And from there, the company really grew, and I have a lot of different collaborations, especially with companies like Super Retreat, which we have aligned values and mission. And at the same time, not only productivity is emphasized, but wellness is a big part of the company too. So essentially, collaborations such as this has really empowered and enabled me to help as many people as possible to do as much as possible. And the epiphany really came about when I was really young. I was a big hustler. I would not be shy about that. I do a lot. I was one of those people that thought about like, oh, sleep is for the weak, right? Like no time for sleep. Let's just hustle, 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 do as much as we can in a day. But it wasn't until when I went and do my MBA in Asia School of Business that I realized that look, as you grow older, energy levels are just not as readily available. You can't just not sleep the entire night before and try to pay attention in class and do the best that you can. And that was when it really hit me that wellness is equally as important as productivity. It's to find a balance, and the wellness part, if you do it right, it really enables you to be as productive as you can. And that's what the real plan is all about: productivity and wellness. But today I'm going to talk about a very special topic, a topic that's very, very close to my heart, is because when I was a young hustler, this was something that I tried to hack. I tried to understand myself in why I was able to be productive. And the reason why I wanted to understand it is also because I wanted to break it down so that more and more people can adopt skills and strategies that I've experimented with and experienced so that you can try to use it to see if it works for you. So I'm going to jump into the next slide, which is something that I would like for you guys to use and scan so that you can participate as well. So if you scan this QR code, it will bring you to a page called Padlet. And with that, there's the first column that says, tell me your name, your tendency, what is your Insta handle, and whether or not you're a business owner. And if you are, put in your business name. Or if you're not, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, you can also put in your current occupation. So I'm going to have you just do that for a bit, 10 seconds. And once you're done, you will be able to see what other people have written in as well, right? So the tendency portion, if you have not yet done your tendency, all you got to do is just type in the 4 tendency framework onto Google and the quiz should pop up. Otherwise, you can also go to bit.ly, so bit.ly link /the 4 tendencies. So do that really quickly. And if you haven't done that, it's okay. Just put in your name and your occupation first, and then you can go in and edit it later on. All right, thanks, Daniel. You have already put a link down there for me as well. So that is the original website. Gretchen Rubin is a very famous author. Even, in fact, some of you have even read her book. She's written The Happiness Project, Better Than Before, and of course, The 4 Tendencies. So jumping next into the next slide. When it comes to personality, and I'm sure you guys know this by now, there's no surprise there, nothing so revolutionary that I haven't yet discovered, is that your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors impact how you make decisions on a day-to-day basis. And especially if you are a person that's experimental, you would have already realized by now that certain things trigger you to be more productive than some. And if you experiment enough, you'll be able to find that strategy that really, really works for you. But these are very basic variables that we are exposed to, especially when we're younger. We know what works for us. We know what we like, our preferences, especially if our parents, reward us or not reward us, nag us to study or not nag us to study. These different types of environment and circumstance do trigger your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior, and that ultimately impacts productivity. So now let's take a look at core values as well. So next slide shows you all the different core values that could even impact a person's decision making, which will lead to productivity. If you have some core values that don't really align with your current work or your current activities or your current goals, rest be sure that your productive levels will be really low. But if they're aligned to your core values, they immediately spike up. Again, no surprise there. Now, the next slide shows you whether or not you are a morning person or a night person. And that ultimately impacts you as well. Because if you're a night person and you're forced to go to work in the morning, your productive level may not be as high. But once your 9-to-5 job concludes and it ends, you automatically feel like you're so much more energetic. You have so much energy to work on your own goals, your own side hustle, or even thinking about starting a new business. Now, the vice versa is also true. So ultimately, you determine where you should spike up your activity levels so that you are more productive. So now moving on to the following slide shows you that these different basic variables has been conquered, right? You understand it now. But with the Real Planner, we have different definitions of productivity whereby not only these basic variables needs to be put down, it has to be distinguished. Understanding and managing your expectations, your energy, and your time also makes a tremendous world of difference. And now I'm going to jump into expectation setting, managing your expectations via the 4 tendencies framework. So this 4 tendencies framework, I'm going to warn you just a little bit. It is going to blow your mind. And why do I say that? Is because each time I tell this to someone, they'll be like, oh, I see. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of aha moment going on. And I rest assure you in the next 1 hour, you'll be able to experience it. So it is sort of an insight towards your brain to show you that oh, this is how your mind is wired. Oh, this is really the manual instructions that I haven't been given for entire life that I have already been living for the past 2-3 decades, and I have not yet been given the manual to life. But somehow with the 4 tendencies framework, when you get an insight towards it, you'll feel like, oh, this is the manual to life. This is the manual to my brain. And I'm going to walk you through some of the frameworks and some of the personas of these 4 different types of tendencies, and you'll be able to identify, I resonate with that persona. Or in fact, you might be able to think about, oh, this friend of mine or this family member of mine, my child or my colleagues, or even a character of a movie, you'll be able to easily identify that, like, that person belongs to that tendency group. So we're going to move on to the next slide now, and I'm going to show you how the framework works. There is only 4 types of tendencies, and I'm going to explain one by one. But essentially, the basic is how you view expectations. Upholders, the one in blue, they are the ones that easily meet both inner and outer expectations. Questioners are the ones that meet inner expectations, but they resist the outer. Obliges are the opposite of questioners, where they welcome external expectations, but they resist their own. And then we have rebels that ultimately resist both their own expectations and also others. Now, you may be wondering, like, where do I fall? And if you just joined us, you can easily do the quiz and find out which tendency you are. Now, just a quick fun fact, most of us are obligers. Obligers carry about 40% of people in the world, followed by questioners, which are about 25%, followed by upholders, which are roughly 19 to 20%, and then very closely after that is rebels, which are about 15 to 18%. So if you fall within one of these categories, I want you to realize that there's no one category that's better than the other. It's really understanding how your brain works so that you can use the manual to figure out how to achieve your goals and how to be more productive. The last thing I want you to do is try to shoehorn yourself into the upholder category. Because a lot of people, once they see the upholder category, they're like, oh, I want to be an upholder. I aspire to be an upholder. No. I want you to not be in denial. I want you to try to embrace your tendency as much as possible, because every tendency has its strengths and its weaknesses as well. It's how you overcome the weaknesses and it's how you harness your strengths that really makes you an effective and productive person. So let's jump into the next slide. So by now, you'll be asking yourself, like, what kind of entrepreneur are you? And if you're not an entrepreneur yet, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, this would have worked perfect for you, because you now can create your plan way beforehand, before you tender the resignation letter, and just put it out there and like call it a day. Like, okay, I'm done with this 9-to-5 job rat race world. I must start my own business, right? So before you do just that, I want you to do the tendency task, because that's going to impact how successful you will be with that one action, that tender, that resignation. And if you're running your own business now, then this will also help you look into your business model, reevaluate how you're motivated, how you treat your employees, and also whether or not you need a co-founder, or if your co-founder is effective for you. So let's move on to the next slide. So this is a very quick high-level summary of how your tendencies impact you. And let's just talk about a very cliche, very, very predictable way of looking at tendencies, which is New Year resolutions. New Year resolutions, to-do lists, ultimately things that is part of your everyday lives. How do you view it? So for upholders, they're the ones that view it no problem. I have a to-do list, I have a New Year resolution, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna check it off my list and just do it. Like, why is it so hard? When they see other people struggle with their to-do list, it's like, why is that so hard? Now, the other tendencies will look at this upholder and go like, why is this person able to do it so easily? Like, what's up? Like, why are they so disciplined? Wake up 5 a.m. in the morning, work out, do yoga, work, and then like clean their whole house and just like do everything they want to do. Like, what is wrong with us? You might be thinking that. Well, there is nothing wrong with us. It's just that you are not an upholder. You don't as readily meet inner and outer expectations as an upholder. And usually what happens is you watch a TEDx video, you read a book written by an upholder author, and it makes you feel like, dang, that's so idealistic. I wish I could do that. But somehow you can't understand why you're just not able to follow all the advice, all the recommendations, all the suggestions of an upholder. Now, let me just tell you, you're not an upholder, and that's fine. You will be fine. So let's take a look at questioners. Questioners, when you have a to-do list or a New Year resolution, you're going to be writing down as many things as possible in that moment that is relevant to you. But when the time comes to execute, you'll be asking yourself, wait. Is this still relevant? Is this still important to me? If the answer is no, you quickly drop it off. You're like, nope, just not gonna do it. Because this resolution, this to-do list just doesn't make any more sense anymore. So why should I? So that's kind of how a questioner functions. Now, obliges, when you have a to-do list, but if you keep it hush-hush, you don't tell anyone about it, it's just in your secret journal, in your secret planner. Sorry to tell you this, but you're most probably not gonna do it because you didn't tell anyone about it, which means you have zero accountability. You don't know whether or not you're gonna come to it because people are not gonna remind you or ask you about it. So the trick here is really to share that to-do list or share what your New Year resolution is, which works for a lot of people because most of us are obliges, right? When you declare something on Facebook, when you put on Insta story that like, hey, I'm gonna take up a new diet plan, I'm gonna do this 30-day workout challenge, and that's where you really start to do it because people are holding you accountable. And last but not least, we have our rebels, which are the fewest people in the whole world. But they are very unique because when they have a New Year's resolution or a to-do list, more likely than so, when the moment they write it down, they're like, hey, that's too easy now. Like I wrote it down. I can almost already imagine how it would unfold and how it will become. So like, don't really want to do it anymore. Don't feel like it. Well, now, unless it's challenging or unless it's very consequential driven, rebels may not act. But if rebels feel like, hey, this list, this item, this resolution is part of my identity. I want to be viewed as a good entrepreneur, a good business owner, a good mom or a good dad or a good friend. Then if they have that strong identity, that resolution is getting done. They're going to just check it off, no problem. So now enough talking about that general overview of what these people are. I'm going to dive right into the next slide, which talks about all the different strengths and weaknesses of an upholder. Yeah, so we all admire this person. This person who is an upholder is a person that's super self-motivated. So I'm going to tell you a little story of each 4 tendencies with the references of my very, very close friends. So the first one is an upholder, and I want to just talk a little bit about Yasmin. So Yasmin, she's the founder of Team Peach Project. She used to work in Astro Awani, and when she left, she started Team Peach Project, which had nothing to do with what Astro Awani was about. This was all about fitness. And as an upholder, when she had a business plan that she executed, that she had a long-term plan on, she kept on going and she kept on checking the list, no problem. So now the way she comes up with a strategy works really well for her upholder clients. However, if she wanted to relate and she wanted to inspire, she wanted to help a person of a different tendency, she needs to be able to embrace the different types of tendencies that exist. And what I mean by that is, as an upholder, she doesn't really understand the need for accountability because she's a doer. When she wants to get something done, she just does it, right? So when people ask for accountability, she often rejects giving it to them because it's more like, come on, you got this, you can do it. It's self-driven, self-motivated. But it doesn't necessarily come as easy for the rest of us who are not upholders, right? So as a business owner, you have to understand that your employees need your support, your encouragement, and your supervision and your accountability. And necessarily come as easily for you as the rest of them to understand, but your business model, your vision, your core value is very straightforward, and you're going to be able to execute it just like that. Honestly, if you're an entrepreneur and an upholder, you're going to be able to just execute your business model just like that. But caveat here is that you may find it really hard to pivot because your plan is solid, right? You want to follow the rules, you want to follow the laws, but when it comes the time to pivot and to be agile, to do things last minute, to have a change of plan, you're stuck. So that's one key thing that I want you to be aware of. as an upholder that you will not face an issue like this. So have the awareness that when it's time for your business to pivot, pivot. Don't just stick to a plan that you've created 3 years ago and hoping it will work again, because it's not going to. You need to learn how to be agile. So Yasmin, I'm super proud of her because she's pivoted many, many times. And I think having that emotional intelligence, having the core value of wanting to help her community really helps her elevate her upholder-centric actions, but really embrace the part and push away the weaknesses that she has to help other people. So that's upholder for you. And I'm going to move on to the next story that I have, which is the questioner. So for questioners, they are very data driven. So when it comes up with when they come up with a business plan, the business plan is really, really detailed. And in fact, sometimes they may not ever finish coming up with the business plan because it's like, oh, it's not perfect. There's not enough details here. I need to have a solid plan before I execute. So you often find yourself troubled in moving forward. So as questioners, and so the story here is really about myself because I'm a questioner. So if any of you would like to convince me and persuade me to do something, use logic, explanation, justification. Because if it doesn't make any sense, I'm going to be like, but I don't really care if you've done this a million years, you've done this like 10 times and it works for you, or if you're a subject matter expert on all these different types of topics. I don't really care until you can prove it to me. I don't really care unless I've done it, I've worked out my own thought process, and I see that you are right. And if I can see that you are right, I will immediately adopt your strategy or your ideas, right? So for a questioner, it is important to have a co-founder who's also not a questioner, because otherwise you guys will be battling back and forth and your business will never pick up. You want to be paired up with either an upholder who's going to just, hey, let's stop dilly-dallying, no more time to waste, let's get to it. Or you could even partner with an obliger or a rebel. So questioners out there, just make sure that before you quit that job, or even as an entrepreneur, you want to have a solid reason of why you're motivated to run this business. Because at some point, 2-3 years down the line, and you don't see the reason of running this business anymore, you don't see why this business needs to exist, well, you might just give up and just say like, let's just call it a day, let's start a new business, right? So perhaps some serial entrepreneurs are questioners. So that's something for you guys to think about as well. So following on, next slide, we're going to talk about Obliges. And here with Obliges, there's many of you that I'm going to give you a warning here. When you are at work and you're being pulled right, left, center, right? Hey, please do this for me. Hey, please do that for me. And you keep on giving and you keep on using your time and effort to help these people. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's part of the nature, right? Your nature in wanting to help others fulfill their goal. And most of the time when you see that happen, you wonder to yourself and you feel disappointed that like, why is it that I'm helping other people fulfill their goal, but I'm not able to fulfill mine? So what typically happens with obligers is that they've had enough. They want to call it a day. So they may just quit the job without a plan. And let me just tell you, that's the worst decision that you can make. Because what happens with an obliger when they quit a job without a plan is that now you're removing external accountability into a space where there's zero external accountability. And you're hoping that you will get things done because now there's no one to bother you and no one to tell you what to do. But without accountability, you almost find it difficult to act because the business plan is all in your mind. Your goals, your vision, your ambition is all in your mind and you want to do it, but it just doesn't seem like there's an external pull for you to step up and do it. So that's the danger of you now just quitting. You might just have a lot of time, but you might just be sitting at home doing nothing, even though part of you really want to do it, but it's just you're just struggling on how to do it. And that happens to the best of us. So I wanted to assure you that it's okay. Even if you're an obliger, you will make a great entrepreneur. What you need to do is pitch your ideas, share your ideas, find some investors, find some potential clients that you can already commit to low key, right? Your business hasn't picked up yet, but you've spoken enough about it that enough people will be expecting that of you. Enough people will be expecting that you actually create that business, that solution for them to use. And so when you finally tender and you finally give up on your job, and you start a business, you have accountability. You're not just going to sit at home with a lot of time doing nothing. And I'm going to give an example here. A very, very dear friend of mine, my co-founder of Purpose Skin, Carmen. So she's a freelancer. And a lot of times as freelancer, you have a lot of obligations that gets pulled, in various angles. And for her, what works best is that she finds co-founders like myself, who's a questioner, and her husband, who's also an obliger, and another co-founder of ours who's a rebel. So with this combination, she feels like she has an external accountability to making her business successful instead of just working on it on her own. 3 years ago, she tried doing her own skincare business on her own, but it never picked up. Maybe because she felt like there's no accountability. But now that she has co-founders, it has worked out better for her. So next, last but not least, take a look at Rebel. So for rebels out there, when you finally tender that job, just like call it a day and put it down, in fact, it works well for you. Because for rebels, when especially you have that challenge feeling like, I'll show you, I will prove you wrong, I'm going to step up and be the best business ever, right? It works for you. It works for a rebel, because when a rebel is on a mission and he or she has a deep innate belief that their business is going to be the best, it's going to work, and that people need it, they will pour in their values and pour in their identity in order to make it work. And so the person here, the story that I want to share is Sarah. Sarah is the founder of Super Retreat. So even with her own business, she is the only founder and she calls the shots. Her business is very, very well aligned with her identity and her values. And because of that, she has no problem executing these little things that she needs to do, because by doing it, it resonates with her values. Now with founders of Rebels, right? If you have a co-founder, what works well as a rebel is that you give them different tasks. Don't park a rebel into just like one CFO. Okay, you are the CFO and you work CFO type things only. Or you are the strategy person, you work strategy only. Or you are the marketing person, you work marketing only. No, not gonna work. Rebel needs to feel like every day is a different day. They want to be able to wear many hats and do many things. So sometimes as a founder, you might have that liberty and freedom, but when it comes to the small little things, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to execute. So you might want to outsource. You might want to have a co-founder who's an obliger that's able to take your directions, your challenges, the ability to kind of question and just be a devil's advocate. That obliger will be there to kind of support you. So otherwise, you will enjoy being, wearing different hats, just doing different things, having a super flexible schedule. Rebels, unfortunately, don't like bosses. So if you have an investor, just make sure that this investor understands that they don't push you or put too much pressure on you in executing timelines. Because an investor or someone that you are sort of relying and depending on is not able to understand you, you're more likely to push back, which means that your business might suffer from the consequences of you trying to just rebel against investor implementing timelines on you. So the best way possible now is, as a rebel, you want to propose the timeline. You want to call the shots on when and how your business grows, right? Because if somebody else gives you the timeline and like, hey, do this, you're like, nope, not going to do it. You know what? I might as well not even run this business at all, because if it's not my way, I don't see how it's worth doing it. So these are the 4 characteristics of these 4 different tendencies. So if we just go on to the next slide. So I'm going to just show you a little bit more insight towards how it works on your day-to-day life. Now that you've already realized that, I have friends that are upholders. Yes. I also have friends that are questioners, obligers, and rebels. And in fact, you yourself might be thinking, okay, So I'm that kind of entrepreneur. Or if you're not an entrepreneur yet, you be thinking, okay, should I be an entrepreneur? And if so, how am I going to be an effective entrepreneur? I want you to let that sink in. I want you to embrace both strengths and weaknesses that you have, because once you get that down, your business is going to be extremely successful and you're going to be extremely happy and healthy. So let's just take a look at very simple things again. To-do lists. Upholders are all about checklists. So if you have a to-do list of your business, write it down, because the moment you write it down, you're going to do it. Questioners, if you have your business model and these are the things that you need to execute, understand why those things are important to you in order for your business to be successful. Because if it's justified, you're going to do it and you're going to serve that business model that you've created. Obliges, if you have that to-do list, outsource, find a client, find a team that you can manage. Because without a team, without people who are relying on you for this product or this service, most likely this to-do list will just be forever a to-do list. It's never going to be an execution. Rebels, when you write that to-do list now for your business model, think of your vision, think of your mission. What is it going to serve? How is it part of your identity? Because the moment you see that these small little things that are just very mundane and boring, but the moment you see that this is important to show that this is your identity, you are going to be able to easily do it. Now with rebels as well, it's important to highlight the negative. So let's say like something that is negative that you are trying to avoid, think of it as, okay, so I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be reflected as this type of person. It's also going to work for you. So either way, be creative in coming up with a strategy in order for you to execute that to-do list of yours and finally pick that business up. And the next slide, which is the last slide that I'm going to show you in terms of habit creation. So there are 4 different strategies that's very distinct to each tendency. If you realize when we were back a couple of slides, right, you would have realized each strategies down there that showcase this summary that I've created on this slide. So upholders, when you want to have something done or executed, scheduling works really well for you. So apart from writing it down, if you have a Google Calendar that's very specific to, okay, let's just say you are currently working in a company, but you have a side hustle and you have a business that you want to pick up. All you have to do is say like every day, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., I'm going to block that time and I'm going to work on my business. Or even after 9 to 5, okay, I'm going to block out 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. to work on my side hustle. The moment you schedule it down, whatever side hustle, whatever things that you're trying to execute, you will be able to do it easily. And now we go to the questioners. Questioners are all about clarity. So with enough clarity, your business is going to be able to not just be a business idea anymore, but it's going to be something that you'll be proud of, because now your thought process and your ideas, they make so much sense to you that you're able to find that clarity of how it will help someone. And the moment a questioner has a idea or a product in mind or a service, like for myself, that solution, it becomes very easy for a person to share that thought process. I'm a big fan of teaching and I'm a big fan of providing clarity to people. So when I have my clients, when I explain something to someone, that almost becomes part of my product and service offering. That becomes part of my business. So for questioners, more likely than so, your business idea, your proposed solution, right? Something that you want to help people with, most likely it's a consultancy, because you want to help people improve. You want to help people solve a problem, whether it's to be more efficient, to fix a process, or to just fix a problem. So questions and clarity. So good business idea, think about what you have to offer. For me, it's productivity. For you, it could be something else. You may be a big fan of maybe interior design, right? And that could be your business idea. So for Obliges, habit creation is all about finding accountability. So even if you want to create good habits to start off with your business, like I said just now, if you quit your job and there's no structure and you think that you can suddenly wake up at 5 a.m. creating these new habits for yourself, it's not going to be very possible. But if you want to wake up at 5 a.m., but you have a buddy or you have a significant other, you have a friend, or even like something like a BNI that you have to like pay money to like get up and be there for the people because they're counting on you, that works really well because accountability is best for an obliger. Once you have the perfect accountability that aligns with your goals and values, you'll be able to do anything and you'll be able to execute anything. One thing that I want to remind you again is that stop putting the inner pressure on yourself. Stop trying to rely on yourself thinking that I am better than this. Because although you are an amazing person, deep within you, how you're wired, remember the manual again, the manual of life, the brain manual, is that you need to tell someone about it. You need someone to hold you accountable so there's an external pull to what you're trying to achieve. And last but not least are your rebels. So rebels, when it comes to habit creation, I have 3 words for you. First, find the information. Second, figure out what's the consequences of you not doing it. And then third, you can make a choice. So what I find works best for a rebel when it comes to habit creation or even anything else, right? The strategy here is identity. But more than that, it's also understanding the consequences. So when I was in MBA, there's this really important framework that we all learn, which is the decision tree. This decision tree, how it looks like is that if you want to do this, when you branch it off, okay, option A, option B, and then option A, if I do this, what are the pros and cons? Option B, if I do this, what are the pros and cons? If you understand the benefits, the consequences, and you do a perfect cost-benefit analysis on your business idea, it's going to work for you. Because you're going to be able to see the entire picture, have the information, know the consequences, and then make a choice. Because all of those are laid out for you. It is your choice, ultimately. So you'll feel like doing it. So these are the 4 different types of strategies that you can embrace as a upholder, as an obliger, questioner, and rebel. So sometimes I'm going to just give a little caveat here before I sort of close the session, is that you might find that there's a variation. Some upholders also lean towards questioners or obligers. Or questioner can also lean towards upholder or rebel. Obliger can also lean towards upholder or rebel, and rebel can also lean towards obliger or questioners. If there's a framework that you can actually Google up by the 4 tendencies, okay, there's actually a subset between the 4 of these tendencies. So let me just show you really quickly. Upholders are up here, so they have subsets, and rebels have subsets as well. Upholders and rebels are opposites of each other, and questioners and obligers are opposite of each other. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a variant, right? And the variant exists in different environments and circumstances. So sometimes it might pull you a certain way. So if you're doubting yourself now, like, wait a minute, I don't really know which am I, because sometimes I'm like this, sometimes I'm like that. And that's okay. Because when it comes to family, what is that tendency that shows up the most? Identify that. When you're at work, what is the tendency that shows up the most? Identify that. So at least you already have a frame of mind of what kind of strategies will work for you when you're at home and when you're at work. All right, so that is it for the 4 tendencies framework. I hope it has been insightful for you. That's as much as that I can share in the past 37 minutes. There's so much more that I want to tell you, but we don't have enough time for it. But if you want to pick up the book or even attend my workshop, you'll be able to identify even further strategies that will work for you. Now, managing expectations is just the first step. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So the second step is also managing your energy levels. So next slide shows you how you manage your energy levels. Because with understanding how your energy level fluctuates within the day, you'll be also able to optimize your day properly according to a structure. So that's also another important workshop for you to attend if you want to understand how to manipulate your energy levels up and down. I haven't drank a single cup of coffee in the past 4 years, and I am super energetic. I'm a fly cycle instructor. I am a chief of staff in SOCAR. I run my own business. I know when to manipulate when my energy heightens and when my energy drops. And I know when to rest as well. So if you want to learn that, that's the module for you. Now, next and last thing that I want to show you guys is managing time. And this is like a duh. Obviously, productivity is all about time management. And yes, you might already be super good at managing your own time. But with this next slide, I'm going to show you how you can even manage your time even better by understanding the capacity that you have. A lot of us feel like, oh, we have so much time in the day. Or a lot of us also feel like, oh, we don't have enough time. But it's all a perception. When was the last time you actually quantify it? When was the last time you actually calculated how much free time you had in a year before you decide that you want to like scuba dive, you want to run a marathon, you want to write a book, you want to like create a YouTube channel, you want to do this and that? Do you even have the time for it? And you might feel like, I do. I'm super optimistic about it. But let me tell you, after you do this free time analysis, you'll be like, I don't. I got to pick two because that is all the time I have. And the rest of them, I'm going to save it for next year. The next slide also shows you that when you have a goal, a lot of times we think about like, oh, I want to change career. I want to take a CFA. I want to buy a house, right? Easy. I can do it over a weekend. Not so easy, because when you break down these goals, it takes more time than you've expected. You might even think that it takes you 2 hours, but when you break it down and you properly check off the performance goals in order to achieve your end goal, you might think that, hey, okay, I thought it was 2 hours, but wow, now that I've written it down, I've broken it down, it actually takes 10. Do I have 10 hours? I gotta take, 3 weekends to do it, not just 1 weekend. So that module is all about the perception of time, and time as a value, time as a commodity, and your goals as the items that you want to purchase. Now, the next slide, which is the last module that I want to share, I'm a huge advocate of sleep. If you think you can function and be productive without sleep, you are being in denial. It's impossible. The more sleep you get, well, I've got to take that back. The more optimum amount of time you sleep you get at 8 hours, 7 to 9 is a very good optimum hours of sleep for you to obtain. You'll be able to achieve way more because now you can manage your expectations better. You have that emotional intelligence. You're able to put yourself in another person's shoes. You're able to come up with strategies and execute it for yourself. You're aware. Sleep gives you that awareness to maintain and manage your expectations. Now, sleep also modulates your energy levels better. Without sleep, your energy levels are going up and down, out of your control. It's almost like you're surfing on the wave and you got to catch it. Oh my gosh, it's going high now. Let me see what else I can do. Oh, it's going low now. Let me see what else I can do. You're giving into the moment. But with better sleep, you're able to manage your energy levels. You're able to identify like, no, now is the time I want my energy levels to go up, and it can. Well, now is the time I want to relax and I want to just wind down, and I can. And a lot of times most people feel like, oh, I can't sleep because my energy is so awake, my mental is still so awake at night. It's because you haven't had consistent, regular amount of sleep. And the last but not least is, of course, managing time. Time management, if you take a look at the next slide, it's all about reverse engineering it so that you can understand how to execute a certain thing at a certain time. So right here on the right-hand side, it's about executing that meeting, right? So to fully function at that meeting, there are many, many items that you got to look backwards on until the very day before. Structure your day, reverse engineering your day will help you execute time better, to utilize time as a value better. So sleep, I cannot emphasize this more than I have already, is that sleep is not for the weak. Sleep is for everyone. And can you imagine if you're telling me that you've been running on 5 hours of sleep for the past 10 years and you're fine? My question for you is, can you imagine if you would actually sleep 8 hours instead of 5? How much more could you have done in the past 10 years? So with that, I'm going to end right here. Next slide just shows you, again, my final thought for you for the day is all you entrepreneurs out there, for those inspiring entrepreneurs out there, ask yourself this before you make a decision. Depending on which tendencies you are, ask yourself that question, reflect on it, especially in this pandemic period. There's ample of time to do a lot of thinking. Seize that opportunity, get your mental explanation right, get that mental strategy right. These different types of information, especially today that you have taken time to watch this workshop, this mini workshop, I hope that that has give you a bit of insight towards what you can reflect on, what you can think about this pandemic period, and ultimately make a decision. With that, thank you guys so much. Connect with me. Next page is all my DMs. You can shoot me a question if you have any. If you are watching this, please be sure to connect with me. I would really like to hear your insights and what aha moments that you have. Follow me, follow The Real Planner, follow Super Retreat. Thank you again, Daniel, for inviting me to share my insights this morning. And I'm going to pass the floor back to Daniel and Sarah.
Hello, and she mentions Ashley. Thanks a lot, Ashley. And Ashley mentions Sarah. Sarah is actually with us here. So hi, Sarah.
Hi guys. Ashley, that was amazing, and I love the rebel stuff. It was funny because I had a moment where I was like, oh, it's Hari Raya. In case I may have a friend over, I need to like wash like mop my floors and like clean my place because I don't want people to think that I live like a monster, right? So that's how I sort of like align that rebel part with who I am. Daniel, why are you smiling? Because you're a rebel too?
I am a rebel. Like Ashley knows that I'm such a rebel actually in terms of that. Like, and it's one of those things like I always try to subvert expectation basically. That's quite a lot of good response. Short, sharp, important insight. Thanks a lot. Well, thanks to Ashley and thanks to Sarah for helping to arrange this. This is amazing. I have learned a lot too. So especially like the energy level thing.
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to highlight, so the last three slides that, or last few slides that Ashley shared, this is a first, it's kind of a mini version of what she does, but we do have part 2, 3, and 4 talking about energy, talking about time, and also talking about sleep that you can get the actual workshop. You can go on superretreat.com and you can sign up for it. I do have, it's actually all on sale right now, so please do sign up. Yes, there we go. Perfect. Thank you for putting that up. It's 89 ringgit right now, but if you purchase, if you spend 200 ringgit or more, that means you'd have to get about 3 workshops, at least 3 workshops. Then you're going to have a 15% discount. So it's with the coupon code connection, so you can sign up to all of her workshops, or we also have a couple other things that are going on in terms of relationships and whatnot. So I really do appreciate everybody signing in and like leaving their notes and comments about Ashley's workshop, because I find it so profound. And for anyone that's an entrepreneur, anyone that is running a business or finding working on a side hustle, these are the things that you need to know to be able to be a lot more successful or effective in what you do. So I'm super grateful for it. And thank you, Daniel, for letting us be a part of this and doing this together. Just want to know.
Since we have you here, can you just share a bit what Super Retreat is about?
Yes, sure, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm like not appealing to the rebel side of you. I should like, please do not share about Super Retreat.
I know I need options. No. So Super Retreat is a community that I've created over the past 3 years. We first started out with retreats, and because of the pandemic, we've gone online to create empowering experiences for individuals. So we have been focused more on women, but this year I really wanted to be a lot more intentional for just anyone, both men and women. And it's like Ashley said right in the beginning, it's about wellness. You can't think about just only trying to be productive or trying to lose weight or trying to do all those things if something in you isn't aligned, and a lot of it is, mind, body, soul. And so we have different types of topics and different types of pillars that we work with. So Ashley is our life design, where it's really about trying to be more effective with your time, your energy, your expectations. We also have Asha Gill. She does our a lot of recalibration of your thoughts. If you feel like you can't get past a certain block or a mental block, or you feel like everything's been derailed, she's going to help you. We have wealth coach, we have relationship coaches, we have women that are, other coaches that are there to just support you or give you that space. And that's sort of what we sort of foster. So yeah, we've got a couple events coming up. Of course, we had something amazing with Star Hill. Ashley attended our women's circle, a really nourishing experience for a lot of women. But of course, with MCO, it's very hard to do in-person events. So we're going to have to wait a little bit. And Daniel, we're going to do some collaborations as well. I'm going to bring some people on your side to connect with us. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do at Super Retreat. It's just to help empower you, we just want you to win. We just want you to succeed in life, and we want you to win in all aspects of your life. So that's really what we do. And, we've got different coaches to help get you to that place.
So there's a couple of questions actually. I think someone asked where can they find the book.
You can just buy it in MPH or I got mine in MPH, but mine's really beaten up. Like, it's super yellow and old now. I actually tried to look for it in Borders and Time bookstore in the last couple of weeks, and they actually ran out. So you might be able to find them on Amazon or just online. I tried looking at Big Bad Wolf as well, and they don't have it also. Access Bookstore also doesn't have it. But if you can find a copy online, search hard, you'll be able to get one.
I would say it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile keeping. That's a book that I think it's like one of the top 10 books that I generally recommend. Next part is from Brian, actually. Just a statement. Good point, Ashley. The fact that we don't measure a lot of factors, including time, that matters our future before making decision. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, I just like to add something on that one. Is that a lot of times when we try to check off our to-do list, we keep thinking that the more we check off, the more productive we are, right? But I just want to remind you guys that being productive is not the end goal. You're not just checking things off to like feel productive, right? Productivity is just a means to an end. Like, what are you being productive for? And ultimately, you want to be happy, healthy, and successful, right? So if you're trying to push yourself, burning out to get there, it's not worth it because you're ultimately compromising healthy, success, and happiness. So just a quick reminder that doing a lot doesn't mean that you're productive.
That's a good point. Definitely something that I know. Ashley introduced me to Gretchen Rubin, and now I'm taking her 1-year happiness project course, loving it. Amazing.
On top of that, actually Gretchen Rubin wrote a book, Better Than Before, about habit creation, and she also has an app. So for all of you Obliges up there, which is pretty much 40% plus of you, download her Better app and find an accountability group, because you're going to be able to relate to more people like you, so that when people ask you to do things, you guys can discuss what's the best, most strategic way to say no. So, and that will work out for you very well in the long run.
That's Suraya from Ringgit O Ringgit. So thank you, Suraya, for the question. And this is Brian again. I'm more productive after my sleep and exercise. Brian is a friend, and thanks a lot, Brian, for watching. Yeah, you actually look better a lot. So thanks. Someone say he has improved a lot actually.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm beyond categorization.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, there's this Brian again. Thank you very much. And I do not know how to pronounce your name, Aratus Mani. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ashley. So Ashley and Sarah, any final thoughts before we end the chat, or if there's any questions that will come in, feel free to just drop in the comments, and we can actually bring it up.
Well, I asked you to ask people what they were having issues with in terms of
Yeah.
productivity, right? So we saw, I mean, there are a few hilarious answers. I think one of them was about, them feeling lazy or them feeling lethargic. So Ashley, if you were to hear that and it's coming from all the different tendencies, what would you say to them?
If they're being lazy or lethargic, I
Yeah.
think
Or
that's a
MCO,
really
that MCO like time warp where you're like, I could do this later or not. I'm still at home anyway, and it's just everything is just like one big blob of time.
Yeah, I think in terms of languishing, so I like to use the word languishing now. I'm a big advocate of moving the needle from languishing to flourishing. If you guys haven't read the article on languishing, New York Times actually wrote about it, and I think it's perfect in describing where we are currently in our mental state. You're not exactly depressed, but you're not exactly motivated to do a lot of things either. And because of that, maybe perhaps in this pandemic period, you're procrastinating and you're not doing much and you're being lazy. But really, perhaps you're just languishing. And I want to just assure you that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Write it out, but at the same time, find what's next to do, right? Not immediately that you have to solve it, but find what's next to do. So my advice would be according to which tendency you are. So let's just take again, for example, like upholders. If you're languishing, it's also probably because you don't have anything on your calendar. So put something on your calendar. When you put something on your calendar, sign up for a course, a 6-week course, you'll not languish anymore because that thing is on my calendar. I gotta do it. Questioners, now I think the reason why questioners languish the most is because they don't find a purpose or motivation. Like work is just 9 to 5. Like, why is it that, like I should put and pour my heart and soul into it, right? And people like me, I have a side hustle. So I'm not languishing because I'm creating something that I'm really excited about. So maybe that's just what you need. And for Obliges, if you're languishing, it's probably because I sympathize with Obliges because you're languishing because you're by yourself at home and you don't really have connections or external accountability to keep you in check, right? So I think especially if you feel like you're languishing now, the best solution possible is to call up a friend, chat with them, talk to them, like what's up, like what's your plans, and like ask them, hey, do you want to just like read a book together? Like that would be fun. Or you could even have a Netflix party, right? And after the Netflix party, like you watch a movie with everyone, or even do like a little book club with everyone, discuss it, have that group activity type thing so that you avoid languishing. Because if you want to read a book and the book is right there sitting on your desk, I bet you a bunch of you who are Obliges, you buy this book because you're like, oh my gosh, I need it to fix myself, right? You buy it, you find it on Amazon, and it's right there on your table, and you're like, I should read it, but like, but I can't, right? So maybe you can, but find someone like Daniel and Sarah to read it with. So then you're like, oh my gosh, Sarah and Daniel's going to ask me questions about it, so I better read it, right? And then last but not least is Rebels, right? So I think Rebels, honestly, I don't really think Rebels languished a lot. I feel like if out of the 4 tendencies that exist, Rebels are all about kind of finding like enjoyment, pleasure. So they're good at entertaining themselves. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I feel like Sarah and Daniel, like you guys don't seem to languish as much because the moment you languish, it's like, that's not me. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get it going, I'm gonna hike, I'm gonna do another event, right? That's always like what's next.
You're just calling me out for hiking too much.
Because you want to keep yourself entertained. So there's really no time for languishing.
Yeah.
So I would say like with Rebels, just like keep up the good work. Yeah.
I think there's another question that actually like just leverage on the rebel part. So one of the statement was by Chong Lisa, focusing at one thing at a time. I think that was what that was.
What was the question? Can you highlight it?
Oh yeah, basically the question was like what's the problem with productivity? So she answered focusing one thing at a time.
And she's a rebel.
I do not know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Focusing on one thing at a time, that's why it's like not a rebel characteristic. It's more like, give it all to me. I'm going to show you I can do it all.
Like, what would be your advice for her?
So I gotta see this question. Is her question like how to focus?
No, so the general question was, what's the issue you face when it comes to productivity? So Chong answered, focusing one thing at a time.
Ah, okay. So if this person is answering focusing one thing at a time, this person it's either an upholder, because super easy to focus one thing at a time, very compliant SOP based, or even a questioner, because it's like, oh, focusing on one at a time works for me. Like that's effective. So like if it works for me, it should work for you. So yeah.
I think I'm reading it the other way around. Like maybe like she cannot focus one thing at a time.
Oh, her issue with
Yeah.
productivity is that
Yeah.
she cannot focus on one thing at a time. So which means it's the
Yeah.
opposite, right?
So she's probably a rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
hard to just
could also be an obliger, because if she cannot focus at one thing at a time, and I think she's an obliger, because if she cannot focus one thing at a time, it's also because so many people are asking her to do so many things. So she's like, oh my gosh, like I do this, like, but who do I say like yes to and no to? So my suggestion for her would be to prioritize a person's like requirements. So let's say like my boss wants this by when, so that should pop up first, and then like, oh, friend asked to do this, or 2 weeks later. So if you prioritize, you won't feel like the need to like just attend to everyone's needs immediately. Just drawing back to my example with Carmen, right? She's a freelancer, and she often tells me that like, I see everyone as equal. So when you see everyone as an equal, you want to say yes to everyone, and you want to work on Sarah's thing, Daniel's thing, Ashley's thing all at once. So you can't focus, right? But if you start to prioritize, like, I think like Sarah's more important, right? Then you do Sarah's thing first. So you feel like, okay, I can just focus on Sarah's thing first, because hers is like on a tight deadline, right? Then Daniel's is only like 2 weeks later. So I can like focus on that later because he doesn't need it now. So even though I feel pressured to do it, I don't have to do it now.
Okay. There's actually another question, basically about how do you deal with team burnout?
Team burnout. Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that question. So I'm gonna be straight here. Upholders rarely burn out because they know when to say no, and they're just like following their own schedule. Questioners don't burn out either, because it's like, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it, right? Rebels don't burn out either, because it's like, hey, if like it's not part of my identity, I don't see any consequences, I won't do it. Obliges burn out. Obliges burn out a lot. And I'm gonna just share this one last tip with you guys, is that when obliges burn out, and you want to take care of the obliges in your life, because if you keep asking them for favors and you keep asking them to like do this, do that, and rely on them so much, and they feel taken advantage of, they feel like they're not acknowledged and they're not appreciated. Obligers stand the risk of flipping the other way around and becoming an obliger rebellion. And once they go into that zone of obliger rebellion, it's almost like there's no turning back. When they resign, they get out the door, It's permanent. They don't actually give you a second chance even, right? And for them to pick themselves back up from the obliger rebellion, it's going to take a lot of hard work. So don't burn out if you're an obliger. Just take care of yourself. Keep thinking that like, I cannot say yes to this project, because if I burn out, I'm going to be saying no to everyone. So take care of yourself well.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about boundaries too, and just making sure that you're okay with it. Because if you're saying yes to a lot of people, at some point you're going to be like, I hate everyone, I'm going to not do anything, and then you're going to get caught in that guilt cycle of, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Now like they need my help, and then like you're even more inclined to help them. And I think it's just having healthy boundaries so it doesn't get to that point.
I think Brian actually said Brian uses urgent versus important table for prioritization.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
So I have one question. Like, I think basically this is more about the four tendencies, and do you think that people will flip around in terms of over time their tendencies, like from a rebel,
Yeah.
then they become an obliger, like?
Yeah. Everyone has a spectrum. And in fact, as a questioner myself, I could almost convince myself the most efficient way is Sarah's way. So what would Sarah do? The most efficient way is Yasmin's way. So what would Yasmin do, right? So as a questioner, I'm able to do that. So sometimes I get a little bit like messed up, like, ooh, what am I? But time and time again, I realize that I'm a hardcore questioner because at the very root of it, I'm a questioner because I question things like, why should I do it Sarah's way? Why should I do it Yasmin's way? If it makes sense for me, I'll do it their way. So sometimes we get confused. So your question is more like, will it change, right? Sometimes there's a spectrum that we navigate back and forth with according to a situation. If there are already too many upholders in your workplace, you tend to shy away from being an upholder and becoming your second dominant tendency. But what really happens is that when you are born, you have this one particular tendency, and that's why it's most apparent in children. Children, when you identify their tendency, you know how to parent them well. So it's important for parents to know what their children's tendencies are, and it can change with a big life decision. Like if you get married, you move overseas, you move out of your parents' house, somebody passed away in your family that's close to you, you got betrayed like big time, you lost a lot of money. So I think big life changing events could affect a person's tendency, but rarely than not, tendencies don't change, right? It varies in a spectrum according to situations, but at the end of it all, there's one that's really strong and resonant with you.
I think the way that when I asked you before is it's not like a personality test, but it's a tendency, like where do you fall within the category, and sometimes you tend to flip around from like when you're dealing with certain people, you are more of an obliger. When you're dealing with other people, you're more of a rebel. That
Oh,
also would that happen?
no, not really, because
Not really.
you can't judge a person's output.
Mhm.
You can't judge a person's tendency using their output, because
Got it.
when they do something, what's in your mind? An obliger will be thinking, I'm doing it for you, for someone else, because I care, right? Rebel, I'll be doing it because like it's part of my identity. I'm a good mom, so I'll do it. If I have to wake up at 7 a.m. and get all my kids there on time and make sure this person like has a iron uniform, although I hate the mundane task of ironing, I will do it because I'm a good mom, right? What's in your head? Questioners may be motivated like, if I do this, I get that promotion, I'll do it. Upholders, most likely they're just like, oh, people expect me to do it, I expect me to do it, I'll do it. So you cannot judge it by the output. It's what's in their mind, and only they would know. Unless they don't reveal, then you will never know. And some people don't want people to know their tendency because it's like, if I tell you, you know how to like manage me already.
And I think too, I mean, I've seen a lot of Ashley's modules, and so she does one. I think this will probably be the third part 3, right? Where she actually maps out which your secondary tendency could possibly be, because we are a spectrum. I am a rebel, but there are certain aspects of me that are questioner as well. But if you ask me to just say yes to everything, it is like the hardest thing in the world for me to do. And so in one of the workshops, she actually talks about, what level of capacity you have to be able to go from one tendency to the other. And that actually is, to me, it's profound. I was just like, oh my goodness, that's why it's so hard for me to just say yes. Like, because I ask, or, just to be compliant and just to agree, it's like not in my bones to say yes to everything. I just can't. And so Ashley goes into that and explains why that's the case. Or, even with some of the modules at the end too, it's like, when things get really easy for you and you also have a reluctance to do your tasks, right? Or when things are too hard, what do you need to do in order to get to that place, or where the level of energy you need to be at in order to get there? And I think that's some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the next workshop. So please sign up. You're gonna have your mind blown. We're going to be doing this over Saturdays, just to get it out of the way. And I think with MCO, it's also going to be more or less everyone's gonna be at home. So come and let's be at home together. Obligers, now you have a crew to like be at home with you to be productive, so you feel productive and you get to have your accountability with us. So yeah.
So it's two Saturday, 22nd May and 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So it's 2 hours, and 5th of June.
Yeah.
So
and then the 19th of June. So it's every
19th of
other week. So
Every
at least it gives you a little bit of time to process, to apply, and then jump into, let's see how we can now increase this and add more value to your productivity.
Yeah, so excellent time to try to be more productive during this third MCO. And thank you very much, Ashley and Sarah, for sharing. For those who want to sign up for the course, head over to Super Retreat. You should be sharing this over the groups also. So the direct link and the promo code for them is again
Connection. And if you sign up to 3 or more workshops, you'll get a 15% discount on top of whatever is already in your card.
Thank you very much. So see you guys, and looking forward to actually like hear more productivity stories from you guys, and also look forward for more stuff that will be coming up from the Super Retreat. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a great Saturday.
Yeah.